All right, well, welcome everybody to the first triad of 2022. Thank you so much for coming out. I know that there's a chance of snow today again, but hopefully it's one of the last times that we're going to be seeing snow this year. I know that's probably not wood, but we're going to knock on it just in case anyway. We did put out a list of the dates and where we're going to be at and some tentative topics. There might be one or two that we kind of switch around here throughout the year. So if you get our emails, go ahead and make sure that you're checking on that. But most of these are pretty set in stone now, which is pretty fantastic. On the back side, it shows you the different meeting locations. It also has all of the committee members, their phone numbers, and our names too. So if you need anything or have any questions, please feel free to give us a call. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started on our first speaker. His name is Bill Holley. He's with Counseling Works, and he's going to be speaking to us today a little bit about depression in older adults and how to kind of combat that. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. And thanks for having me, of course. I think everybody has one of these. It's just a little snapshot brochure of where I work with Counseling Works. I think I might go ahead and lead with, a thank you for Counseling Works also for hiring me, right? Okay, almost 2 years ago. I've worked with a lot of counseling groups over the span of my career, and that's about, I don't like to admit, about 40 years now I've been doing this. But it's always been my second job. It's been my evening work, my moonlighting, if you will. And so my main source of employment over the course of my career has been in hospitals. I worked in a hospital for about 10 years, a good decade there. And I switched over and started working in schools, and I worked there for 25 years. But all during that time, I did this. I did private work with people. I retired 8 years ago, and I'm continuing to do that work. I've always made this statement to clients that I've met over the years and saying that I really like what I do during the day, but I really love what I do at night. Working privately with people has been something I've really enjoyed a lot. And for Counseling Works, here's my plug with them real quick, is that they are one heck of a group. Well, everybody's young to me, right, nowadays, but they're a young group, and they're so organized, and they put people in the proper positions. And I've worked with groups before, and they've all been pretty good groups, but this is the finest I've worked with, without any question. And we have 3 offices, one in Naperville. Lamont now is open for maybe 3 months or something like that, and Frankfurt, which is where I'm at. But that's just a little bit of my work history. As long as I'm introducing myself, I'll just add that I went to SIU down in Carbondale, and then a University of Illinois grad for my graduate work. That's my educational background. And I'm married. I have a wife who is a nurse, and she's due to probably retire. She'll probably do much like what I'm doing, continue to work in some form after she retires. But she's an APN. She works with rehab and works with, she used to work for Advocate. Now she works with a rehab group that still works in Advocate or in Christ Hospital and so on and so forth. But she does a lot of with spinal cord injuries, head trauma injuries, and the like. So that's just a little brief, introduction of who I am. I'd like to, what I would like to, but this, this thing here reminds me of first grade, and I don't know why, but I'll put this. Yeah, absolutely. What I would like to do, though, is, anybody here a young parent? Okay, we got one at least. That's good. So I want to do this and see if this works. I'm just going to do it for the fun of it, but as a way to tell you how I'm going to talk about depression today. Okay, so I'm going to time myself and see if I can't do this I got to pull up my timer here. Before I time myself, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to teach everybody here. And so you got to think back when you're a parent. I'm going to teach everybody how to be a great parent in less than 60 seconds. How about that?
All ears.
All ears.
All ears.
All right. I'm going to see if I can do it. I don't think I can, but I'm going to try. All right. First thing you do is you teach your child or children to have a high self-esteem. This trickles down to having great confidence. That's one thing you want to do. The second thing you want to do is to teach them to become responsible, okay, accountable for their own actions. We do that by natural and logical consequence and other ways of doing that. The third thing then is to teach them to be good communicators so that they can cooperate well with others. And that's it. That's 3, and I did it in actually what? 38 seconds. Now, that's a very simplified approach to parenting. But if you do that, what you're going to wind up with is a confident individual, okay, or young person, confident. You're going to see them with an ability to talk to other people. And we've all met young people who talk quite well with adults and other people, teachers, and you name it, and who can cooperate with others. Now that translates to jobs and working well with other people, and you can just imagine that. But a person who is responsible and is accountable for their own actions, we want that. We do not want to blame other people for the life situations that we get ourselves into. And so if you've done those 3 things, you're a great parent. But I'm not here to talk about parenting, right? If I was, I would talk for 45 minutes on this and break things down and teach how to do that. And that's what I'm going to do a little bit. I hopefully keep it that simple with depression, okay? So I'd kind of like to start off and just ask a simple question. What is depression? Let's define it. There's actually just a one-word answer to that question. What is depression?
I don't know, but I had it.
That's right.
I've had it from time to time. So.
That's right. Well, we all have had it. Because it is what? It's a feeling. Okay? That's what it is. It's a feeling. It's nothing more than that. It starts off as a feeling. Okay? It's not a disorder. It can become a disorder, but it's not a disorder. It's just a feeling at first. It's like anger or anxiety or happiness or excitement or any feeling at all. That's what depression is. Okay? That's okay. So when we think of a feeling, where do feelings come from? Feelings come from somewhere. It comes from a thought. Okay? So we have a thought first, and we have a feeling attached to this thought. Then we behave. Okay? It's really as simple as that. It's the think, feel, do cycle. I'm going to go ahead and draw it up here. I'm not a great artist, but I'm going to do this real quick. So there's a brain, which is not very, doesn't look like a brain, but you get the gist. Think. Yeah. Looks more like maybe my brain. Okay, so here's, and this goes down into, I'll try to do it. I'm left-handed, so nothing works for me. This is the feel. And then this is the do. And this is our behavior. Okay? See if I can't get one that marks a little bit better.
you today, huh?
All right, so here it is, the think, feel, do cycle. Generally, this is like a hand, okay? It says think, feel, do cycle. So it starts with a thought, and here's depression, okay? But here's a whole lot of things. Here's all kinds of feelings in here, okay?
So how do you get out of it?
This is what we're going to talk about. And by the way, that's a great question, because people think of depression, a lot of people say, well, medication. I'm not a psychiatrist. I don't medicate. I never studied that part. I never became a psychiatrist. I'm a counselor. Okay, I work with people. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. Thank you. I work with the other side of that. They say the best treatment for depression is medication and therapy. Medication and treatment. I work with the treatment. So I didn't pay attention too well, okay, to the other side of that. If you want, yeah, go ahead.
Just a quick question for clarification.
Sure.
What would you say is the difference between depression and being a happy person who happens to be sad?
Very good question. Okay.
Because of the world, basically.
Okay.
Nowadays.
Very good. There is a difference between sadness and depression. The difference is the way we think. Okay, there's two fundamental ways that we think. There's one that is rational. We think rationally, based on fact. We call it straight thinking. The other is irrational. Okay, it's crooked thinking. That stuff leads to depression. Straight thinking leads to sadness. Now, sadness isn't great, right? It's not. But sadness it's not destructive. It's uncomfortable, but it's not destructive. Depression can be. Okay, there's the big three called depression, anger, and anxiety. We call them that, okay? All three of those are based on irrational thought. It's irrational, crooked thinking. Let's use anger as an example. And I'll use myself as an example. If I get angry, I know immediately, and I work with a lot of people who have anger issues, I help them to understand this, that they are thinking irrationally. A red flag comes up. I'm irrational. So what do I need to do when I'm irrational? Pause. Stop. Slow down. And reverse this and not behave on anger, because that looks ugly. A lot of bad stuff happens when we behave off of anger. So we want to reverse this and not behave on it. We want to go right back up here and correct our thinking. Okay? Put it into a different perspective. We need a little bit of time to do that. So I like to teach how to slow down, how to take a moment. And sometimes it only takes a moment. Sometimes it takes longer than that. So we need to walk around the block, or we need time so that we can think differently and put it into perspective. We've all had experiences where we behave off of it, and later what? We regret it. And we think back and say, what was I thinking at the time? How could I have done that? You know, to somebody I love or my friend or whatever. Okay? Well, now you're thinking about it rationally. But we want to get up there before you behave. And so we need time. And now I'm talking about anger. And we're going to do the same thing with depression. We're going to do the same thing with depression. We're going to, again, I talk about the counseling aspect. Now, I want to tell a story before I talk about exactly how we do that, if you don't mind. Just a quick story. I'll try to keep it quick. I said I went to undergraduate school down in Southern Illinois University, and I used to do a lot of canoeing down there over in Missouri. My brother lived in Mount Vernon. He had a 1945 Willys Jeep and a beautiful 18-foot Wichita canoe, orange, and he'd pick me up, or I'd hitchhike. Back in the day, I could hitchhike up to Mount Vernon, and then we'd drive over to Missouri and we would canoe. And back then, the Current River was a nice river to canoe on. It was very slow, very relaxed, lazy river type thing, but beautiful. All the students loved to go over there, and I did too. So anyway, after a while, we decided we wanted to pick things up a little bit and start whitewater canoeing and get faster and take rapids and get better and that kind of thing. So we did this, and we conquered some. We conquered, right? We wanted to conquer, and we did. And so we conquered different rivers, the North Fork, Jack's Fork, and some other ones. Anyway, I'm going back in time here. We came to a time and place where we wanted to really challenge ourselves, and the river was called the St. Francis River, and I believe it leaked down into northern Arkansas. Started in Missouri. And we thought we were pretty good, but we couldn't get on the river unless we took a class. We had to take a class, a 1-hour class, and we had to sit there on rocks by the river or whatever, and this guy told us how to handle a certain section of this river, because it was called the Shoals. I'll never forget that. And there was a 10-foot drop during the rapids. Now this is it's probably about 10 feet. That's a pretty good drop. Maybe that's higher than 10, I don't know. But it's a pretty, especially when you're going very fast. 10 foot, well, you got an 18-foot Wichita canoe, right? So you're going to go in, you're not going to fly, but you're going to go down pretty quick. We had to learn how to handle that section and other sections. And so he taught us how to do this. Then he came to the end, and he taught us how or what to do if we tipped our canoe. How to handle that situation. And that's when I started to really pay attention. And so he said, first thing, here's what you do when if you tip a canoe in a set of rapids. The first thing you don't need to do is hold your breath. You're going to do that automatically. You don't have to think about that. That's an automatic thing, response you're going to do. You're going to grab air right away. The second thing you do have to think about, and that is, he said, we want you to relax, okay? Don't panic. We don't want you to panic. So that part you got to remember. And there's a reason you need to relax. You need to find out which way the current is going, because you're going to be all mixed up, right? And by the way, you also, I think I skipped one part. You got to hold your head, right? And I don't know why we didn't have helmets back then, but we didn't. So you got to hold your head, because if you're going to hit your head on a rock, what's the point? Things aren't going to look good. So now you got to relax. You got to find out which way the current's going, and you can do that if you relax. Now you swim in that direction, and you'll come up for more oxygen, and you're well on your way to surviving if you tip your canoe. Now you don't want to swim toward toward land, the bluff part for sure, but you can, or when the sand comes out or whatever. You want to, but if you do, you could roll over and go back down again. So you continue down the river, the land will come to you. Why is this important? What he said after, I'll never forget this, and I've remembered this my whole life. And it's driven me in a lot of situations. And it's great to help clients with. What he said was, you need to be a participant in your own rescue. Okay? You need to be actively involved. In other words, don't sit back, don't do nothing. Don't wait for somebody to save you. Okay? So it's save yourself. Get working. Have a plan. Design a plan. Now he's telling us a plan, so you get my gist. That is, participate. Don't try to save your brother. He's busy trying to save himself. Once you have done that, and then you can help. Okay, so this is what I like to teach when it comes to people with all kinds of life situations that bring about depression, anger, anxiety, or any type of situation. Okay? I need to get them participating in their own rescue. Even people with depression. We need to work at it. We can't, well, I don't want to get into, it's not that I'm down on medication. That's not true. Medication can be particularly with depression. Okay? I'm not real big on anxiety medication because there's so many things we can do to control anxiety. So many things we can do to control anxiety. And anger is kind of like, anger and anxiety have energy to them. Depression doesn't. It doesn't have almost any. It's a lack of energy. So I like to try to find energy for somebody who is feeling depressed. I want to point out too, again, that I said earlier, depression is not a disorder. Well, it is when it disorders your life. That's what disorders are. And disorders are temporary. They're not permanent. Because you have an anxiety disorder doesn't mean you carry that the rest of your life. You have it until you get control of it. And then you don't have it anymore. You still have anxiety, but we just want to control our feelings. Control them. We don't want them to control us. Okay, so we want to control our feelings. And so how do we do that? We control our own thoughts. Now, this is primarily where I work with people, how they think. And I help them to think better, straighten out the irrational thoughts. Okay? How do we do that, right? Well, we start. Well, first of all, let's talk. First of all, let's pause for a second. Does what I'm saying make sense? Does it make sense? Okay, good.
Not that easy to do, though.
Exactly. You're asking them great questions, or making good statements. It's simple, but not easy. It's simple to understand, but it's not easy. Parenting in 1 minute, simple to understand. But you think parenting is easy? No. You know the differences between those two concepts, right? Okay? Well, here, let me give an example. If I gave you all a shovel, say go out and dig a 10-foot by 10-foot by 10-foot hole. Give you a shovel and a tape measure. Pretty simple. You think that's easy? All right? Not easy. So you're absolutely correct. It's not easy. This is where I come into play to help educate how we can actually do that. So we'll stay on topic here with depression, but I'll give you some great ideas on how to handle depression right off the bat. Then I'm going to show you another model here that I like to work with, or work from. Walking is a great strategy to use for depression. Okay? Flat out. Okay? One of my favorites is volunteering time. Okay? If you can volunteer your time, what does that do for you? What I like to do is, go ahead, you were going to say?
It's like self-value and makes you feel.
Exactly. Exactly. That's a great word, self-value. I'll start using that one. I work with self-esteem, and I'm going to show you the model on self-esteem, because instead of working with the depressed feeling, although I will like to work with that, but I like to educate on what that is, as I kind of have been in brief. But I like to work with the opposite of depression. What is the opposite of depression? If we're not depressed, what are some positive or happy? Well, happy is one of them, I guess. But what are some positive feelings that's the opposite of depression? Joyful. Happiness. Okay, so cheerful. I mean, anything we can think of that's not depressed. Okay, and by the way, I don't even like that word depression. I prefer to get my clients and people to start using better language so that they feel down. They feel maybe despondent, or they feel I don't think that's a word, but you just don't. I don't like to use the word depression because a lot of people put that title on. And they come in, I get somebody comes in and says, I've had depression for 2 years. I'm thinking, well, we got some work to do. Okay, that type of thing. I don't like the attitude. And when I say attitude, that sounds negative. It's just I don't like the concept. Let me put it that way. Attitude, perspective, our beliefs. Everything is right here. I could put these words up here, but that's what all this is. Beliefs. I'm going to spell wrong. I don't know. Did I do that wrong? Okay. Perspective. Perception. I'm left-handed, so I'm going to get over here. Our how we view it, how we see it, how we look at it, our paradigms. In high school, we used to call them paradigms because we weren't too bright. It's all the same thing. We could put attitude up there, but attitude has its own little negative. Young people don't like change my attitude or whatever. So it's the way we think, and all these things are the same. I like to work with this. I want to improve the way we think to get a better feeling down here and be sad, but not depressed. And here, I'm going to turn this around right now, because let's take a look at self-esteem. You said self-value, I think, which is a really good word. I like that. This is the self, again, I disappeared off the camera. Okay, so here's self-esteem. And I really do like to work with this model. Can you see that on there? Okay, good. This is a great model to work with in terms of depression, or really anything. But let's keep on topic again. All right. So I want to work with this rather than work with depression. I want to work with getting people to build their self-esteem. Self-esteem. We are responsible for this. This is our job. Our own self-esteem. Nobody else. It's not a pat on the back from somebody else. It's what we think about ourselves, not how we feel about ourselves. Remember, it's what we think about ourselves, and we want to lift that. We want to raise our self-esteem. If we do this, we're not going to be depressed. So that's what I want to get working on. And I need people I see to participate in this, understand it, and get working on these things, and I'll help them. So let's take a quick look at what is self-esteem made of. Basically five things. Security, self-image, affiliation, purpose, and talents. Let's go kind of slow with this. Security, so we want to be more secure. We want to have routines. Okay, that's important. Or structure, if you will. List, help. That helps, gives us some structure to our day. A list of what we're doing. Being organized. I'm sure there's other things I'm missing, except that one of the things with security that I like with young people is build traditions in our families. This builds security. They have things to look forward to all the time. Holidays, oh, you can go on, right? Go to the same place, you vacation every year, stuff like that. Okay, we'll move on to self-image. My wife just got back from Key Biscayne, and she was out there with her cousin and her husband and her husband, or her cousin's husband's mother. She's 96 years old. And she's out there on Key Biscayne Island. Now that's hard enough right there. All right? She dressed to the nines, or they call it to the T's or whatever. She wore high heels and went to dinner every night with them. And she's, so we want to dress. Our self-image is important. Let's shave. All right? Or whatever. Let's pay attention to how we look. Okay? It lifts us. Work out. Okay? That type of thing. Okay, here's a big one. Affiliation. Let's belong somewhere. Let's connect. So I like to think of these words. Let's connect or belong. Affiliate. Here's where friends come into play. Groups, teams, clubs, churches, coffee clubs. Every Wednesday we get together or something like that. Let's have these things to look forward to. Let's call our friends. Pay attention to our relationships and build on them. And meet new people. Okay? If I can get people doing this, they're not going to be as depressed. Period. Volunteer time, right? That connects us. Also gives us something that does a lot. It's in our schedule. We get feedback when we volunteer. It's a powerful strategy for fighting depression. Purpose. We need a purpose. I believe we need a purpose. Okay? We want to have one. If we don't have one, we lost one, let's get a new one. Let's figure that out. It's probably why I continue to work 8 years after I have retired. To be honest, maybe I'm preventing some depression in my life by continuing to work. Okay? I'm no different than anybody here. It keeps you busy, right? And that goes back to daily routines. Have a title or whatnot. But I think that wards off depression, keeps depression at a distance. Or, on the back of this, it helps us control depression. We'll still feel depressed. We know what that is. We still feel empty sometimes, or hopeless sometimes, or whatever. We feel down. We're not going to get rid of these things. It will not ever get rid of these things. So let's stop trying to get rid of them. Let's just control them. Let's get them down. And if we get them down to like, I don't know, 20% of our time we feel down, well then that means 80% of the time we're feeling pretty good. That ain't so bad. All right? We want goals. So if a purpose, then we have goals in our life. And it could be travel, okay? If we have goals, then we got to plan. We plan for things. Planning for things is really important because sometimes we can get more joy out of planning for something than actually doing it. Planning for a trip, that kind of thing. So I love that. And a lot of times you're planning with another person. Okay, well, we hope that that happens. Okay, so again, this really keeps depression at a distance. And talents. Think back on our older talents. Or build new talents. Okay, we can build a talent. We can learn from other people. And it doesn't matter what it is, really. I was always a poor reader. I couldn't read all. I just didn't like, so I didn't read much because I didn't read well. Then I sat back and said, well, why don't you read so well, Bill? Because you don't read. It's like the chicken and the eggs. Start reading more and you'll read better. And so I made a goal one year to read, I think it was 26 books. Is that right? Isn't that, yeah, well, some of them are real small, plane ride books. They weren't real, but I got 26 done. I think that's one every other week, 2 a month. Is that right? Okay, or 24 maybe it was. I gave myself a break. But I really pushed myself because I like New Year's resolutions because I believe in them. It's not so much I believe in those, but I believe in having goals. To have a goal-oriented life, I think, keeps a lot of bad feelings at a distance. And by the way, you were saying happiness earlier, a couple of you were. We definitely want to be happy, right? Okay? We want to be happy people. All right? Well, is happiness a goal? Is that a goal in life? Okay. I want to answer that question differently. It's not a goal in life. I don't want that to be a goal in life. Okay? It's kind of a trick question. Okay? Happiness is just like depression. It's nothing more than a feeling. So it's a result of us setting and reaching other goals in our life. We get this feeling along the way as we trek through working on, actually it's a working phase toward goals. Oftentimes we may even reach a goal and instead of feeling happy, we feel what? Depressed. You actually get a depressed, like read a good book. You get to the end, it's like, now what do I do? Or you reach a goal, now what do I do? Well, what do you do when you reach the end of a goal? And by the way, you can feel you can feel depressed all the time when you reach a goal. Exactly, get another book. Get another goal. So there's when I say goal-oriented life. We want to have a goal-oriented type life. Okay, set goals, make plans, reach goals, or maybe fail at goals, okay? Or maybe not complete them, all right? And then we got to think about that. How do we handle failure? And that's in this area too, and particularly if I'm working with young people or younger people, okay? College age. I work with college age and above, so I want to help them to realize, to become goal-oriented and to how to handle failure and such, these kinds of things. Very important. I don't want to get on a tangent here, but the point is that We want to be able to do this. And as we're doing, this is stuff we can work on. And this is directly impacts that feeling of depression. And again, this is the second half of, I probably would guess, is the best model, and that is medication and treatment. Medication and treatment. I'm trying to read that clock up there. Is that 25 after? Okay, so I got about, what, 5 minutes or so? Okay. Okay, so I guess it's kind of like, sorry, I shortened you on the question and answer part of it, but as fast as I could go on that, to give you a little quick picture of depression. Let's see if, well, good, I'm glad. Yeah.
What exactly is clinical depression versus everyday depression?
The word clinical, that's what it is. Okay? I don't want to make
Is it not a diagnosis that is used?
it is, but it is clinical but where does that come from? It comes from a book. What's the name of the book? The DSM-4, 5, revived, redesigned, and 5 times. Okay? I'll put it this way. It's an opinion. That's what it is. Now you can read the description of clinical depression, but you're going to see a lot of what I just said on there. What is it? I mean, you may, it's derived from like an interview, okay? You don't take a blood test, come out with clinical. So what you find out is, are you crying? Uncontrolled a lot? Okay, that would be one sign of clinical depression. Are you in bed a lot, like 20 hours a day? You're unmotivated, you feel hopeless, you take surveys, you answer questions, and you come up with a clinical diagnosis of depression. All right? So now what do we do? Now that you have it, it's clinical depression, but it's a disorder. I don't like to poke fun too much at my own profession, but I do need to do that sometimes. I don't want to get hung up on a medical model. I want to impact a person's and change their paradigm, which is on the other side of this, their interpretation of what it is that they have. So I don't accept, I don't accept that. I accept the fact that we can overcome any type of depression. Even, what do they call it? Every year we get the seasonal depression, right? Oh boy. I talk a good game, but you should see me on sometimes when I'm seasonally depressed.
Are you located over there by Abbey Woods?
No, we're actually, you know where Aurelio's is?
Yeah.
It's right across that little street, that little building.
Oh, that you knew.
It's not really new.
Right over by that thrift store?
No, well, if you turn into Aurelio's, you turn right into the lot. You just turn left in our little lot. There's a one-story building.
Yeah, where the dentist office is.
Yes, exactly, exactly. So that's kind of my answer to that. It's a good question because I like talking about that. I'm more interested in the resolution and getting actively involved, as I said before, in helping people change their opinions, their paradigms, their beliefs, or whatever you want to call it, so that they're far more focused on how to build these things than they are sitting here that they have a label or a diagnosis. I want to bust that up and get to work. Now, your question is also a very good one in this way. I don't do that in the first, 45 minutes in the first session. Okay? No. I can't do that I don't want to. And I've made mistakes in my career by trying to fix people too quickly. So I need to Remember that. And just a quick thing on that, I need to build a relationship. People need to get it out. They need to tell their story. They need to tell their story. And maybe multiple times. I need to get to know them. And they need to get to know me so they trust me. So that when I help to teach them these things, they are now more willing to listen and learn. And that's it. A final thing maybe to conclude is that a lot of sometimes, well, I'll put it this way, it's more general, but it has to do with working with people with depression as well. And that is, what we want in life is we want a positive past to reflect back on. We want a productive present. And we can do that because that's all we got is our present. That's where we function. So we want to be productive, okay? And we want a hopeful future. Hope is maybe one of the best things in life, to have hope. So we want to restore hope. However, I want to guard that hope is not a strategy. We don't hope for things to change. I'll go back to my canoe trip. We want to participate and do things and behave in ways that are going to dig us out of this situation. And we are the only ones that can do it. I can't do it for anybody, and nobody else can do it for you. But you can do it for yourself, and others can help you. And I enjoy helping other people do just that.
TRIAD works to improve the quality of life for seniors by providing an opportunity for the exchange of information between public safety, social services, and seniors. There are no membership papers to fill out or fees to pay. Everyone is welcome to attend. Each month, we present a guest speaker on subjects that keep you informed and up to date on the latest scams, frauds, and other criminal activities. We also discuss safety issues, home preparedness, and staying healthy. TRIAD meets the fourth Thursday of every month. Contact the New Lenox Police Department at 815-462-6100 for more information.